Hi, thinkers. Hi, today we are in for a treat today. We are really in for a treat today. Welcome to another episode of Thinking with Tay. I am your host, Tay, and I have the esteemed honor and pleasure of having as my personal guest today a distinguished attorney with over 41 years in the legal field and now author of a book titled Prosecutor Boy. And I'm going to raise it for everybody to see. Prosecutor Boy. Welcome, Attorney Jason Parker.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm honored to have Jason here with us today. To be able to tap into oh my gosh, a legal mind with 41 years of experience in the legal field. I am really a relatively new attorney, if that's the case, in comparison to Attorney Parker. But it is an honor and a pleasure to have you with me today, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
And thinkers, listen. I want you to just delve in a little bit more into Attorney Parker's past, just so we can set the tone of this interview and this discussion. Again, we're just going to have a conversation, and I want you guys to listen intently because he's going to bring a whole host of knowledge and experience today. So just listen in with a close ear so you can understand law, you can understand the time, you can understand the environment that he grew up in. You can understand the life and the fight that he had to endure in order to be who he became in the legal field. And so I respect him wholeheartedly. And I'm just, again, honored to have him here today. So without further ado, I'm going to give you just a little bit more insight about who Attorney Jason Parker is. Jason was born and raised in Taylorsville, North Carolina, the fifth child of seven children born to the marriage of Wade and Sarah Parker. Segregation was still in effect, and he went to an all-black Happy Plains High School from the first until the eighth grade. After integration, he attended Taylorsville High School, where he graduated with honors in 1970. Upon graduating from high school, he enrolled at North Carolina State University and obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science in 1974. Jason was accepted to the North Carolina Central School of Law in the fall of 1976. After finishing law school in 1979, he took and passed the bar exam that year and was hired as an assistant district attorney for the 10th Prosecutorial District, which is Wake County. After 2 years, Jason resigned to return to the Taylorsville area with a husband and wife team, formed the law firm of Harbison, and Parker in 1981. They had offices in both Taylorsville and Hickory, and Jason was the partner mainly assigned to the Hickory office. After 6 years in private practice, Jason took a position as a prosecutor in the office of Robert Bob Thomas in the 25th Prosecutorial District, consisting of Catawba, Burke, and Caldwell Counties in August of 1988. He served as an assistant district attorney in the 25th District until December 2002, after which he joined the staff of Gary Frank in the 22nd Prosecutorial District, which at the time consisted of Davie, Davidson, Iredell, and Alexander counties. Jason initially was assigned to Alexander and Iredell counties. When the district split in 2008, Jason remained on the staff of Sarah Kirkman in the newly formed District 22A, consisting solely of Alexander and Iredell counties. In March of 2012, Jason retired from the state of North Carolina after 25 years as a prosecutor. He maintained a limited practice where he took on minor cases in district court until December 2020, when he applied for and was granted inactive status with the state bar. Hear ye, Attorney Jason Parker. Jason, you have so many years of experience and knowledge. There's no way we're going to be able to encapsulate all of it in this interview today, but we're going to very much try. Okay.
Okay, go ahead for it. Shoot for it.
Okay. So let's delve into it. So just tell me, just to set the tone again, with Prosecutor Boy. And I read this book, and I must tell you guys, this book was fascinating. And it is an easy read. Because one, if you understand the plight of African Americans, be it in the 60s or just from the inception of when they first landed here in the United States. Jason gives a very raw testimony throughout this entire book. Very, he didn't, he honestly, he turned over every stone, if you ask me. And some I was quite surprised he shared, but it is certainly a true, authentic biography. So, and just to set the tone, so tell me, Attorney Parker, and if you don't mind, if I can call you Jason, that might make it easy. Okay, okay. So
You've been
tell me,
doing
what?
this all your life. What are you doing?
I know. I'm sorry. So listen, what was it like growing up in the South? Just tell me in the '60s.
All right. Well, what it was like, you went to separate schools. White
Yes.
kids went to the white schools. Black kids went to the black schools. We had to go to schools at different times. They like buses were like a half hour ahead of us, so the buses wouldn't be on the same time schedule with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, I had to give him credit for this. I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Green Book.
Yes, actually. Yeah, I have.
Okay, well, Pop didn't know read the Green Book, but he knew about every place you could go where black folks could be around. So he tried to make our life as normal as possible, so we wouldn't have to know that that we didn't. I never drank from a separate white water fountain. I never uh, used a colored or white bathroom back when I was a kid because we didn't go nowhere. Because like you figure, Pop knew
Mm-hmm.
that was there, he wouldn't take us. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a restaurant in the bottom of the department store there in Taylorsville named Smithy's, and black people had to go in the back door to
Wow.
get the food, and they couldn't, sit in the restaurant area there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the movie theaters, the black kids had to sit up in the balcony, the white kids sat down below. Um, Pop
Yeah.
would take us to the movies every now and then, but like for the most part, he tried to protect us from the fact that
Mm-hmm.
that second class citizen thing wasn't
That's
for us.
right.
So what he did, you know, and the black high school was the in churches where the main focus of black folks, and like
Mm-hmm.
between the two of them, like the black community held its own in Taylorsville for the
That's
most,
right. That's
you know,
right. Mm-hmm.
and we grew up kind of funny because we were one of those. There were certain black neighborhoods. I always
Mm-hmm.
a black neighborhood, but we weren't in a black neighborhood. We lived this little section, little family area right behind a bunch of white people. So I
Okay.
grew up with
Okay.
white all my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For the most part, we grew up with them, but when you get a certain age, you quit playing with them. When you reach puberty, you couldn't play with the little white girl no more. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. So and uh, one guy, he and I went to a little restaurant one time, this was after 1965, when I thought the Civil Rights Act had been passed, and I had the same rights as everybody else. We walk into this little restaurant, and
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing there?
Mm.
She tells me I got to get out because okay, I'm leaving. My buddy, he wants to go. White guy, he didn't want to go. He wasn't gonna. We were gonna order a hamburger.
Right.
He says, he will. I'm not about ordering anything. So as we're riding home down the road and we're riding on our bicycles, he says to me, "I'm really sorry because there are some black people just as good as some white folks."
Some.
Yeah.
Some.
that well, I can't use the word I thought about. Talking to P with the has a couple of S's in, like that, but it just made me mad.
Right.
So yeah, that's the kind of crap you had to put it with. And then like when you're at there are people who had that mentality that like, hey, we are inferior. My dad
Mm-hmm.
never ever think that you're inferior to anybody. He actually
That's
had
right. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And you know what? Jason, I thought about that when I read your book. I was thinking about the social norms and the thing, and you kind of led into that already, the things that your dad taught you in terms of how to deal with things and, recognizing that, there were separate water fountains and separate bathrooms. And, he tried to shield you guys from that, but understanding those social norms, having to sit in the balcony of a movie theater. I remember hearing the stories, of course, you're from Alexander County, I'm from Catawba County, which are pretty much adjacent counties. And I remember even growing up and where we started going to the Carolina Theater in downtown Hickory now, which has now been renovated. But I remember the stories, understanding, at least from my parents and my grandparents, that they had to sit in the balcony. And
Yeah.
so, and understanding, like you said, eating and coming in the back door or ordering from a window and never could walk in the front door. And that's unfortunate, but that is has been the plight of African Americans in this country. And growing up and understanding those social norms and having to navigate that, I imagine your father wanted to shield you guys from that, but it's hard even as children to experience that like you did when you went to the restaurant.
Well, my father was mulatto, right? And he was born in 1915. Black
Mm,
father and a black mother, and he caught all kind of hell, growing up. And
mm-hmm.
he, he, he we didn't know that either until like we got to be grown. He kept his past behind him. He kept hidden, and like it was only when his buddies were telling me about it one day, and I said, "You got to be kidding me! This is my father, Deacon Parker."
I know. You was
He said,
like that past, I can't you couldn't recognize him because
"Whoa,
that's not
man!"
what he presented. Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing about me. A lot of people think you're like, "Hey, look at me," but I've had a past too, you know,
I think
and
most people have.
uh, it was just a thing of like, just making sure that, he protected us from it, but at the same time, he said, look, you got to deal with it, you know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah. And
uh,
that really leads me into, I'll say, the next question, because and understanding that time and growing up in that time, of course, I was, I'm telling my age here too, but I was, born in 73, actually. And, still understanding we still wasn't far from the civil rights movement. We were few years, honestly, outside of the civil rights movement. So, while like you, I didn't experience, necessarily separate water fountains and bathrooms, etc., but you did have the discussions with your parents and the warnings and how you should conduct yourself and that type of thing, and understanding some of the race relations and people who naturally just hate people just for the color of their skin. And so that leads me to my next question. So what was it like, and we're gonna is I'm trying to bring it to the title of your book, Prosecutor Boy. So what was it like to be called, if in your words described, and maybe this wasn't your experience, but understanding what that feeling might be. What was it like to be called boy as a black child, black man?
excuse me, I've been called boy pretty much all my life. Every time you go to a golf course and there's a bunch of good old boys out there playing golf, and
Wow.
they'll ask you, a bunch of black guys show up at the golf course, where you boys from?
Wow.
And that's just the way it is. And they can't get it out of their mind because like the thing is, they want black men to be, because they look at black men as being boys. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
you to grow up to be and be looked upon as being an equal or a man.
Mm-hmm.
I had to deal with that all my life.
Wow.
And
Wow. And
let
even, I'm sorry.
me explain to you though this. I came up with the name Prosecutor Boy because a disagreement I had with something happened with me and my buddy.
Okay.
Me and Gary Dellinger, we were like a team,
Yes.
we we did all the murder cases in Catawba and Burke Caldwell and Burke Counties, the major murder cases, and we
Mm-hmm.
called ourselves Batman and Robin and that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
but we were working on a case one day, and a judge sent for a DA to come back and handle some crap in Superior Court, and
Mm-hmm.
he told me to stay where I am. I said, no, man, I'm gonna go back and tell this judge I don't really want to be bothered. We're important DA. So I go back there and talk to this judge. Before it's over with, I realized it wasn't that judge, but it was rather the Supreme Court judge who requested that DA. And
Okay.
I said,
Okay.
I don't care what this judge says. And by the time that judge stepped out behind the door, And I looked at Judge Sparrow and I said, I'll be right back.
Right.
So I go back and I tell Dillinger, I say, hey man, like I'll I'm gonna be in court taking care of some Supreme Court cases. And he got mad. Damn it, Prosecutor Boy, I told you to sleep your butt back here. So that's how.
Mm.
I wasn't mad at him because he called me a boy. It was just you had to know our relationship, you know.
Okay.
We used to argue about which one of us was Batman, which one was Robin.
Right. Right. But
You know?
I imagine he wanted to be Batman.
Oh yeah, he was always going to be Batman. You
Yeah.
know, I keep telling him, Batman's a tall guy. You know,
Right. So naturally that should have been you.
right? Should have been me. And like I was. Well, at one time we were trying a case together, and I just got to giving this guy a hard time on cross examination, and I was
Mm-hmm.
sitting down. Dillinger says to me, "Good job, Robin."
Mm-hmm.
And before I knew it, I'm thinking, I said to him, "I'm Batman."
You hollered this out and you were in
Yeah. Everybody in the corner see me like I'm crazy.
because they probably like, what? That must be an inside joke between them. Because what? You just yelled that I'm Batman out.
And see, nobody heard him say it but me, but it made me mad. You know? I told you, man, I'm Batman. You know.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. That's too funny. And
yeah,
it
it was.
really makes me when you were talking about coming up with the title of your book and even as you described being called boy all of your life, golf course, etc. Um it made me think about also how the name cowboy came about and now it's a celebrated term. But when African Americans and as we were called blacks and probably something else back then, with the cowboys back then, they called African Americans cowboys
Right.
because, as you said, they didn't recognize them as full grown men. So they called them cowboys. And that was the original name of African American that was used to describe a
Right.
farmer, a cattler, or what have you that happened to be African American and a male. They called them boys. But now you hear that word, it's like touted and lauded as like this, prestigious name. But now everybody, all colors want to be called cowboys. But that made me think about that whenever you were saying boy, and it was used in a derogatory manner many, many years ago to describe an African American male who was, in the cattle industry.
Well, every time, even when you went out and did, like yard work for somebody, and even when you were like a grown man, like it's still that fact somebody's going to call you a boy. But it happens every day on the golf course. I guarantee.
Wow. 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 So, in your book, you share many things, like I said, I alluded to earlier, that you experienced personally as a young Black boy and a teen growing up in Taylorsville, North Carolina. And you even said into I'll say, your years as a young adult in college at North Carolina State,
Mhm.
and even after you graduated into your early professional career in corporate America, you kind of shared a many, many experiences, things you had to go through. While you were always, and you still are obviously smart, I would even say intelligent and driven, despite, dealing with everything you had to, deal with in your life coming up. From a reader's perspective, it seems that you found yourself in a few, I'll say precarious, I would describe it as precarious, situations that you had to work your way through. Much like many people, again, I think it's growing pains, it's growing up, etc. But I want to know just how would you describe this period in your own words?
You talking about when I was in college or when I was in high school or
Yeah, yeah, like in the book, there were many times that you were with friends in high school and y'all played a prank and then, when you were in college, some of the things you did like a lot of college kids do. I don't want to put all your business out. I'm gonna let you describe it. And I want the readers, I want the thinkers here and the listeners to read your book. So I don't want to tell everything. I want to keep some suspicion there. But how would you kind of describe like your maturation, process and dealing with some of the, I'll say, precarious situations you found yourself in. How would you describe it? Like what was Jason like in trying to deal and navigate, life during this time?
Okay, the first 2 years that I was at Taylorsville High, this was like during the days of freedom of choice, and there was only three black guys there at the high school. In my
Mm,
class, me and two
wow.
other guys, and both of those guys are now deceased. And one of them, he and I used to, you know, match nickels with the white boys, and he always have heads, and I would always have tails, and we would, and win.
Hmm.
Now I find out he worked out the deal with this other white dude. He was living his profile. But I started this friendship with this little white boy named Coffee.
Hmm.
And me and Coffee, you know, rolled a principal's yard, one of the teacher's yards. And I think about the situation with those kids in Atlanta, just recently.
Oh, yes,
Well,
yes.
in that case, the teacher didn't know that we were actually going to roll his yard. And Coffee's in the backyard out there, and the guy's nickname was Foot. Was spinning out Foot on the ground. The guy's dog start barking. Foot comes out, and starts shooting.
Mm. Oh my
Squeak.
goodness, that could have been
Yeah,
that.
it could have been bad, but but he
Yeah,
got
I might wouldn't have been talking to you today.
then like when we get to college, you know, I'm still hanging around with these white boys, and like white dudes, man, they're good guys, some of them, but like they do some stuff that you just think, man, what am I doing this stuff for, But
Especially with your dad, how he kind of raised y'all.
yeah, it's my well, me and my father's biggest argument was my afro. I
I
had
remember reading that.
this huge afro when I was in college, and the first time I came home with it, all he could talk about was get a haircut, get a haircut, get a haircut, and then I go to the barber, get my head shaved, go back home, stay with head in the door. My mom, oh my baby, you know.
You're like, where's your hair? Where's your hair?
I don't know what she said to Pop after that, but he never bothered me about my hair after that. So I grew it back, and like we went from there. But
And you know what? You know what? I was thinking about that too. Like that was, when you were growing up in the 70s and in college, the afro was the thing,
yeah,
but understanding sometime I've heard where stories back in the day and how, you know, some parents, African American parents wanted you to look presentable, right? And the afro may have seemed and appeared to be unkempt, and unkept. So but that in truth, it was a beautiful depiction of and demonstration of self, expression. And so I know a lot of African American parents back then, because it was the whole thing, even about straightening your hair and, looking presentable and basically going into society and looking kept. So I understand, what, your father probably thought, but then your mom was like, no, don't, like you said, you don't know what she told you, but he never bothered you again about it.
but I'd go over when he'd bald like that, like let him have his hair, But yeah, but the thing about that hair thing was like when I was in high school, I combed my hair like a white guy. I get to
Mm.
college, well, this brother, who wore an afro, looks at me and says, "Man, you got to do something about your hair." And I said, "What?" He said, "Nothing wrong with my hair, dude. He's a Negro, please." So
Really?
yeah, at that point, I started wearing the afro, and he and I were like this.
But let me ask you then. So, what do you think, considering everything you went through, the, pranks in high school, but what do you say even back then? What do you think motivated and inspired you to, I would say even to excel despite, the climate that you grew up in and the challenges, in the world at that time? What did you use to inspire you?
Well, when I first got to college,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was trying to show my man Coffee that I could compete with him on the same level. But then after a
Mm-hmm.
while, I realized that, hey, when you go to college back then, they would give you college deferments, to stay out of, the army.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, Vietnam was hot and heavy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Okay?
Oh
So
yes.
I had to maintain a certain grade point average just to keep my, GPA up.
Right.
And see, you know, when I first went to college, I was going to be an engineer.
Okay.
And I get in there and I realize, like you can't be an engineer and party at the same time. See, I
Yeah,
went
that's a dis yeah,
well,
my brother's an engineer. That is a disciplined field.
yeah, it's a discipline field, and I wasn't disciplined back then. So like I ended up having to switch over to liberal arts, and I'm going to
Hmm.
try to find it. But liberal arts is something that I can find out, the easiest thing I can find.
Right.
And that's how I ended up being a political science major, which is oxymoron because there's nothing scientific about politics.
Really. I agree. I agree with that.
But the story on that is, all right, I'm motivated. I'm trying to keep my grades up, and I'm flunking two courses in engineering,
Mm-hmm.
mechanical engineering and industrial engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying I need to get out of here. And like, there's a certain time frame in which you got to drop each course without a grade, and that time had gone by. So I
Mm-hmm.
told the dean of liberal arts, look, man, I need to drop these two courses out of grade because if I don't drop these two courses out of grade, I'm gonna flunk out of here, NC State, and I'm gonna end up in Vietnam. Said, not my problem. I'm not doing this.
Right.
I said, come on, Dean. He said, you said girl, black girl just walked ahead crying? Yeah, she was doing the same thing. She was begging the same thing. Well, she's in
Mm-hmm.
liberal arts, and that don't matter. So engineering ain't got nothing to do with liberal arts. He wouldn't listen to nothing I had to say. So I said, okay, fine.
Wow.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a deal with you, Dean. Let me if I can talk my professors into dropping this course out of the grade. Will you go along with it?
Mm-hmm.
He looked at me kind of funny. He said, yeah, sure. I'm back 20 minutes later. I got two signed pieces of paper from these two professors saying I can drop the courses out of grade. He
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, no, Dean. A dean's a deal's a deal. Okay? Now, you said you dropped this course out of grade. I got them to
Exactly.
go along with it, and here it is. And here's what I did. I went to talk to the professors.
Mm-hmm.
I explained to them, like, I'm in engineering, I'm flunking your course. There's no way in the world I can pass this course. But if I don't pass this course, I'm going to flunk out of here. And if I flunk out of here, I'm going to get drafted by the Army. If I go to Vietnam and die, I'm going to come back and haunt your
Yeah,
ass.
right. And that's just the truth. That's right. So what
And
we gonna
both
do
said,
about it? What we
yeah,
what we
and
gonna
both
do
of them said,
about
yeah, yeah. And both of them said, we can't have that. And they signed off. So like, I go back. Dean don't know this, but I signed off on it. Years later, though, I find that me and my partner are trying to, law partner, to Harbison, are trying a case in Winston-Salem, and there's a lawyer there who went to NC State undergrad, and I was telling him the story about how he would drop these two courses out of grade, and he said, well, his face got turned kind of red, and he said he had tried that same approach with that same dean
it? Mm.
later, and the guy wouldn't budge.
Mm-hmm.
The one and only person who ever made the deal with that dean and got away with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was something about you, but then when you also describe what you were gonna do, probably say, I better listen to this one. So he sounded like a tough, as they say, nut to crack, but you cracked him.
Right. He made a deal with me. He made a deal with the devil. He lost. Anyway, I look at it.
Oh gosh. So in the book, you also you describe a critical moment in your life that I would even say um gave you, I would say, clearer focus and direction that set you on a new path. And really kind of like a different trajectory. And I'm alluding to the car accident.
Right.
And so what did you see clearer, I would say, in that moment? What did you want to change in your life?
All right. Um, Prior to that moment, I'd been in car accidents before. I used to like little small cars, Volkswagens. I had
Mm-hmm.
four
Mm-hmm.
Volkswagens and an Austin Healey Sprite.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, my first year in law school got slammed in the back by an old drunk.
Mm-hmm.
For that Volkswagen, I bought me another Austin Healey Sprite. Egyptian
Mm-hmm.
stop sign wipes that car out. I get another Volkswagen. Lady runs in the back of me and Raleigh breaks my nose. And like,
Yeah.
I, I ended up buying that car back, thinking, okay, well, surely I'm not going to get hit again.
Right.
Car. But see, my lifestyle at that time was I was working in the DA's office, smoking pot, more pot than the average guy on Joe Blow on the street. I was chasing, women like, hey, I'm young, single, and I got this little profession, and here I am in Raleigh. I'm doing all this, and then like I come back home, and as I'm coming back from the courthouse in Wilkesboro, headed towards my back to my office in Hickory, I was going past my parents' house, and I made a left turn into my parents' driveway,
Mm-hmm.
and an 18-wheeler was passing me in the car behind me at the same time. He hit me right behind a driver's side window here, just crushed that Volkswagen, pushed me 100 yards down through there, and but I came out with a little scratch on the side of my head and a separated shoulder.
Mm.
But I'm
Yeah,
looking back at the
you
car,
were
I had
blessed.
nothing there. You know, I mean, you couldn't even tell what the engine looked like.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, it's about time, son. You need to change your lifestyle.
It's a
You know
clear
what
sign. Clear sign.
I mean? God's been trying to tell you something, but this time, he said, you got one more time, buddy. I played you this one last time. And at that point, I call it my Damascus Road moment.
Mm.
I didn't quite change up, but from that point on, I said, look, I need to get serious about life. And so and decided, get away from this, quit smoking the pot,
Mm-hmm.
quit chasing the women,
Mm-hmm.
get back in church, and get your life in order, son.
Get your life in order.
It's like, if we don't do this, because if you died that day, you'd have busted hell wide open.
Wow.
And
Wow. And that's amazing. Because I thought about that when I read that in the book. I was like, wow. I said, despite everything that you had gone through and everything, and like you said, I saw where you had been in car accidents before, and I was like, what was it about that particular moment? But I realized, I said it had to be the near-death experience, and you literally just had a scratch on your head, and that 18-wheeler, like you said, I mean, there's no way anybody else probably would have survived that, but for divine intervention. And that's exactly, what happened.
when the car stopped and I looked, and what I could see was the grill of this tractor trailer
Oh
rig.
my goodness.
I couldn't get out that way. I had a sunroof. I couldn't go up to the roof. I had to go out the passenger side window, roll the window down, and I was back then. I was skinny enough to get through it.
Mm.
And I lay down on the ground, and I was laying there. I closed my eyes. When I opened them up, my daddy was standing above me because
I
just like
know, right there in front of your home.
my dad was standing there, and he was holding my hand.
Wow.
You know? And he said, "Son, you're gonna be all right."
Wow.
And he was right, but I'm gonna be more than all right, Pop.
That's right. I'm gonna do something different. I'm changing my life. Right, right.
This is it, buddy.
This is it. And that's what leads me to my next question. So when you met and decided, to marry the love of your life, Mrs. Elizabeth, to whom you've been now married, you guys are, I think, nearly 40 years. Um, you were a relatively new attorney trying to build a private practice. And, during this time, I was just wondering, how did you want to show up? Considering, like I said, it turned over this new leaf. How did you want to show up, I would say, as a husband and a father while navigating the complexities of building a law practice?
Okay, I first saw her when I was still recovering from my near-death experience, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Mom was
Mm-hmm.
in a sling. I was at my cousin's funeral, and she came in, paid her respects, and walked back out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a dog, and I'm looking at, Mom, she's got a nice, you know what? But I just happened to look up and meet her a month, Valentine's Day, a couple weeks later, and then we started dating and that kind of stuff. I was still dating her,
Mm-hmm.
but as time went by, I realized, this woman right here, man, she's got my back.
That's right.
And she ain't trying to get me to move somewhere else and start another law practice somewhere else because things are tough in Hickory because it was the very first lawyer I met. They said, you're going to starve here because nobody wants a black lawyer in Hickory. Nobody's going to come to a black lawyer in Hickory.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
yeah.
But that's interesting because even now in trying to build, a practice as I am now, I mean, yeah, I've been in corporate America for a number of years. So I partner and I serve as of counsel for, several different global companies. So I do transactional corporate law, but trying to build a private practice, even if just doing and building business law, it can be tough at times. But I've been blessed, with over 20 years of experience in the corporate legal field. And so I've had many blessings come my way doing that. But yeah, you're right. Trying to transition into private practice, regardless of the over 20 years of experience I have in doing transactions, mergers, acquisitions, corporate, etc., it's still difficult for a single or solo practitioner, African American person to try to build a practice. So I can only imagine what it was
in this
like then.
area because like it's that mentality. It's just kind of weird, but that's all right too. But in the long run, what happened is like, I was making it. My practice was starting to build.
Mm-hmm.
Same time, by the time we got married, I was all right, but still, like she had a good job, and like she was doing more, bringing in more income than I was.
Mm-hmm.
Because like once I pay your taxes, overhead, and everything else,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's just it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So then my daughter was born.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, daughter. So when she was born, I said, okay, that's it. A job came open in the DA's office.
Mm-hmm.
I like prosecuting more than I did private practice. I just didn't like private practice. I didn't like
Okay.
didn't like doing title searches. I just
Right.
like to be in the courtroom trying cases. And I
Right.
tried a couple of criminal cases over Moose County.
Mm-hmm.
Had some
Mm-hmm.
fun doing those. Like the hanging tree and
Oh yeah. Oh
that kind.
yeah.
And I got but when she was born, uh, like a year later, the job came open. I said, look,
Mm-hmm.
and this one guy who I ended up working with, so Bill Johnson, who was the head DA at the time, said
Mm-hmm.
he went out, he left private practice. He got tired of monthly surprise.
Okay.
What he called it.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? He said, well, you never know, because one month you ain't making nothing. Next month like you made enough to maybe last you for a whole year.
Right.
And it's just that back and forth, But see, like, you got a steady job. You know exactly what's coming in every month.
Mm-hmm.
I applied for the job and I got it.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, and during that time frame, Ridgeview was, uh, I guess, under assault. You know,
Mm-hmm.
drug trafficking was ridiculous. Crack was
Mm-hmm.
hitting hard.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers was killing brothers left and right.
I remember that time.
I said, okay, here's
Mm-hmm.
what's gonna happen. You guys been getting shooting people, getting slaps on the wrist. You either gonna quick to cut this crap out. I'm gonna send you to jail for life, or I
Mm-hmm.
put you behind it on death row.
Mm-hmm.
And you put a couple of guys on death row, and I tell you what, you know, I can, once you do that, you can get people coming and say, hey man, here's the deal. Your man can plead guilty and accept a life sentence, or I'm going to put him on death row, and they would sign up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I became a hard nosed. I just but I was equal opportunity and prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't harm just the brothers. I mean, like I didn't see color then.
Right.
Who you kill somebody, I'm going after you.
Right.
You
Right.
rob somebody, I'm going after you.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just, yeah, no. Life's too short for people to be out here, doing stupid stuff to other people.
Right. Agree. Agree. And you certainly growing up, well, I'll say I probably when I worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice. And I didn't know you at the time, but I would peep my head in court from time to time. And I never told you this, but I don't know if you used is this character called Law on Law and Order. I cannot remember the character's name, but I always say you remind me of him in the way in which you present it and how you would even sit in your chair sometime and rear back and spin. And it was almost like you were an actor in court. So, but you were good. You were good at it. And I was like, Jason, has a disposition that one that the jury it's funny, and I thought about this too when I was in law school. um I was in a trial, it was called trial prep class,
Yeah.
and the professor was the assistant city attorney for Lansing, Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, I hate people like you. I was like, what? He said, no, that's in a good way. He said, because you'd have the jury eaten out of your hands. You're so believable and
Mm-hmm.
so convincing. And people used to always say, you should go into litigation, you should go into litigation, because they said that I was so convincing. So when I thought about, and thinking about you, like I said, I was working for the Department of Juvenile Justice. This was like 1997, and I would peep my head in there, and it was so funny how you presented. And it was almost like you could really throw the jury just, I mean, I won't say antics for lack of a better word, but it was just like what you would do and everything that you would use. It was very demonstrative, and I felt like to some degree the way you presented, you acted. And I mean, you were great you were great, and you were very convincing. And so I have to give you that. I
You
don't think I ever told you that, but you were.
know where they came from, right? That butt workman I took down in Raleigh, I put it
Yes,
in the dog case where I sat there
yes,
in
yes.
the dog form and the guy jumped up and he out argued me. And I sit there and I mean, the jury came back within 15 minutes. I mean, I shouldn't have lost that case, but I read this stupid dog poem. This guy killed a dog. This guy
Okay.
killed a dog.
Okay.
And I had a great case on him. I had an eyewitness. I had the victim.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't even have to argue this case. Just read this poem about Old Yeller. And I did. I read a stupid poem. And hit jurors in the box crying. And then this guy gets up, Russell Dement, and just wore me out. He argued the case longer than it took us to try it.
Oh,
And by the time he got through arguing that case, man, he had his client go back there and say, "Who did shoot the dog?" And I'm sitting there after the jury came back, not guilty. And this little brother walked up and touched me on the shoulder, and patted me on the shoulder, and said, "It beats like that sometimes."
oh, really?
Yeah, okay,
You said, all right,
like that. And I
gotcha.
made up my mind right then and there. I said, like, if somebody beats me in a trial with me on that, it ain't because they put on a better show than I did.
There you go.
And I became a showman.
There you.
I I would get on my hands and knees. If somebody killed somebody when wrapped an open their neck, I'd get on my knees. I almost smacked a couple of jurors in their face with guns when I was swinging around like they were supposed to be doing
I'm telling you,
it. I
I've
mean,
seen some of that. I was like,
it
what?
was. I was there, man. And see, I even was trying to case over and tell one time. Just so at the trial was over, this old white dude walks up to me. He's dressed in like Colonel Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
He had on the old hats, big old cowboy
Mm-hmm.
hats. So what are you doing with a cowboy hat on in the courtroom? So, the court was over with. He says to me, son, you missed your calling. You should have been an actor. Okay. Or a preacher one. I said, no, I'm good, but this is that's the whole point. It was
Yeah.
like, Joe Freeman Britt used to be the head DA down in Robeson County. That man gave a speech one time at the DA's conference when I was, rookie DA working in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the comment, said, like, if you're going to try to put a man to death, you got to make the jury hate the man. Not SOB, but you got to make him SOB. And that's another thing I did when I was trying a murder case. Maybe Gary Dellinger, he walk up there, he give him the law, and he'd be nice and calm and smooth about it. Like he had me in that hand that way, and I went to yelling at him. You need to kill that, who over there. He's a piece of, what.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I lost some cases, but like everybody just talked to my little dog and pony show, some lawyers like to call it. So Mr. Parker's going to get a minute and hear his dog and pony show. Yes, I am. You know what? Get ready, folks. Here it comes.
You know what? And what that tactic, what I've heard, again, I don't do litigation, but what I've heard is you basically make the jurors, first of all, the jurors are in there. They're regular, everyday people. So you have to create images and likenesses and experiences that they can relate to. So that I've heard that that's usually the strategy. And so with you kind of moving in that way and being demonstrative as you have to create a vision, for the jurors so that they can hopefully side with you.
Well, the first couple of cases, one of the first cases I tried, I lost,
Mm-hmm.
And after the case was over with, there was one black juror in the jury box, and she said, if you'd been a white lawyer, you'd have won that case.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're thinking, oh, well, that's part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to do, and up here, you're going to have mostly white jurors.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have a whole lot of black folks sitting in the jury box, listening to what you got to say.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, most folks, regardless of the race, are honest and they want to do the right thing when they do it. And if you can just sit there and figure out a way to make them feel guilty about doing the wrong thing,
I got
then
you.
you gotta go. Then like you got them. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, you read about those cases like down in Mississippi where like, Klan would kill somebody back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
A white
Mm-hmm.
jury would let them go, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Constantly doing that.
Right.
Well, me and my boy, we put a white man on death row for killing a black prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. And
Mm-hmm.
when you do it, is you make him feel guilty about, look, he's that you're something else. You're not him.
Mm-hmm.
Not that
Right.
you're not that kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
You're better than this, and like you need to go ahead and do the right thing. And it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like we were, me and Dellinger, we were a team. You know,
Right. Yeah,
we
I read that. That's the sense that I got throughout the book. I was like, you guys were tight. You guys worked hand in hand, together, like yin and yang, they say.
yeah, we
I gathered that from the book. So let me ask you, and I thought about, and you alluded to this, you shared earlier, with your daughter Ashley, now being a judge, how did you feel about her going into the profession, having legacy, that followed into your footsteps, how do you feel about that? She's a successful, actually was one of the youngest judges appointed. Now she's serving as a judge, I don't know how many years now, but she's doing an excellent job there in Raleigh. So how do you feel about that? Her deciding to do that and following in your footsteps. How do you feel about that?
Well, when she was coming up, the whole time she was coming up, I was telling her, you need to be a doctor.
You didn't want her to be a lawyer.
I didn't want her to be her lawyer. I didn't want her to be a
Oh,
lawyer.
wow.
Niece, Ola Lewis, they named the courthouse after her down in Brunswick County, and she
Uh-huh.
wanted to be a lawyer too. And, I just didn't want these, knowing what I knew about,
Okay.
what
Mm-hmm.
a lawyer, I just didn't want that for her.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want you to go through the crap I had to go through.
Mm.
So, but she made up her mind. She went to the Central behind me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
graduated cum laude. I just
Mm-hmm.
graduated. I just, thank you, Lordy. I graduated. Thank you. She
Right.
graduated cum laude, but it's okay. But it's funny because I quit the DA's office September 30th of
Mm-hmm.
19. She went to work for the DA's office in Wake County, October 1st, 2012. 31
Wow.
days she took my
Wow.
job, you know, and
Wow. Central Law School, same legacy, your legacy biologically, but then goes to Central Law School, graduates your legacy, and then goes to Wake County and basically working in the DA's office as your legacy.
right.
Wow.
And she went from there, and then she went to the AG's office, and then like while she's at the AG's office, she got appointed to the bench, and she's been there doing it ever since.
Excellent. Excellent. I know you must be proud though, regardless if you didn't want her to necessarily follow in it, but it was in her DNA, you know?
Yeah,
It was in her DNA. That's good. I'm extremely proud of her. Obviously, we also share commonality one as Black female attorneys, but also we share the same sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I know you are, a member of Alpha Alpha. So again, you guys have that, in common as well.
right,
But I'm extremely proud of her, and she's doing great work down there. So I know you have to be proud, you and Miss Elizabeth.
right.
So we kind of got into the practice of law, but I want to know really what did it mean really for you to be the first, as my understanding, you were the first African American Black attorney, practicing attorney in both Alexander County and Catawba County. Am I correct? Or
Yeah, that's it.
right, right.
Been
So
there
we
women for
stand on your shoulders for sure. But how was that experience? Like, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but I mean, you had to knock down some walls.
Yeah, the very first lawyer, like I said, I met when I first got here said, "You're gonna starve."
Mm-hmm.
It was tough, like, but um, I think I brought something to the table that a lot of people hadn't seen before. I mean,
That's
like
right. Okay.
the,
Mm-hmm.
the the theatrics part of it. Like I never lost a jury trial in Alexander County at all. And I mean, I had some really guilty clients. You know,
Really?
yeah, I didn't lose. Well, I didn't lose that one. But this guy had 50,000. he had 6,000 pounds of marijuana growing on the side of a mountain, and I got a hung jury out of that the first time.
Oh, wow.
First one, only hung jury they ever had in Alexander County.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Years. But then, like the other two or three jury trials, like, and some of them had to do with the fact that people knew me from having grown up there.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of it was like, like you don't bore people to death. Like I said, most of the time people don't win cases because they got the best facts on their side, because they put on
Mm-hmm.
the best show.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put on a good show, sometimes like this one guy, man, like he set a house on fire. The old geezers in the house said who tried to burn him said he tried to set me on fire. He had kerosene on his pants legs, and the whole 9 yards. First time we tried it, the jury found him guilty, and but the Court of Appeals made a bad ruling, sent it back for a second trial. I asked the DA, hey man, give me a cut on the break. He said, nope. You got. Well, if you're gonna get that 30 years this time, you got to try him again. Second time
Mm-hmm.
around, I walked him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Sin, but you always put on the best show, and like
Yeah.
I put the guy up because he was crazy.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So let me ask you, and then even on that same line, so did you, being the first being the first African American practicing attorney in both counties, did you feel a sense of responsibility? We always hear usually the first have it the hardest. Maybe that wasn't your plight. Maybe that wasn't something you focused on. But did you feel like you had to do extra, or you held or had a sense of responsibility that you had to walk a certain way, be a certain way, because you carried the race on your back? Did you have some of that experience? Did you feel that?
To be honest with you, no.
Okay.
I the whole thing was, it was just a matter of survival. Like
Mm,
original game plan, just to
survival.
survive. If some other black lawyers come behind me, then fine. But at this point, I'm just trying to survive because these people right here are trying to run me out of town.
Mm-hmm.
That was my, and I was determined to stay
Mhm.
because this is where I was born and raised. My parents were getting older,
Right.
you know, and by being back home, I was there when my father died. I was here when my mom died. And like uh, I got to spend that time with them, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like having to move to Wilmington or Raleigh or somewhere else.
Right. Right.
Like just a couple of my law school buddies, they made a killing, in the larger cities, like did well. But
Sure.
my whole point was, I'm determined to make these people up here, look at me for what I am.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily because I was trying to bring the race along with me. I'm just saying that I'm Jason.
Yeah.
And by golly, you ain't pushing me around like that.
And you're not gonna push me out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I first decided I was going to go to law school. They sent my three deacons of my church and another black sister to try to talk me out of going to law school. You know,
Wow.
they didn't want a black lawyer in this area.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
and
That's
I almost had, I had to be nice to them, but I really want to tell them guys, well, you know what, But and then they sent my uncle on me. Uncle Dogman, or Uncle Rayford, and I never forget. Uncle said to me, "So, son, but you ain't mean enough to be a lawyer."
wow. So just really trying to discourage you, because
Yeah,
that was like my next question was like, how did you even deal with being in a profession where nobody really wanted you there or didn't even want you to go into the profession, let alone, but then even when you got out, it was like, you know, they didn't really want you there, or they weren't comfortable with you, or, just not used to you, maybe,
yeah. Either way, however you want to look at it.
Right.
Yeah. Um, I had to give my old law partner Joe credit for a lot of that, because like he was determined not, to break things up, because he brought his wife in. So we were the first
Mm.
interracial and, you know,
Hmm.
with law firm with a female in this area.
Right.
Like that had a lot to do with it. And then, I knew that, like, listen, these guys around here who are so-called, the good lawyers around here, they're no better than I am, you know?
Not
And
at all. Right.
and I'm just as good or better than most of these lawyers, and I'm definitely better than these DAs walking around here, man. Two DAs working for Bob Thomas, man. Like, I never lost a case to them either, and they were also very, very guilty clients, and it was just a thing of, you know, but like you said, a better show because there's one case I won. I thought I'd done something really great, and I was in the post office barbecue one day eating, and this lady walked up and said, "I was on one of your juries." Yeah, I said, we did you a favor."
That's what. Oh,
She said, "We did you a favor. Your client was guilty of sin. We didn't like the DA, so we didn't give you a break."
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And because when you think
Uh,
about it too, it's like you got to walk around, in the county with people who are your jurors, defendants, victims, etc. So I mean, that alone is something to navigate. So
well,
I mean,
yeah,
just
and see, being the only black person around, I had people come to me and said they remember me, and like, hey, remember
and you
me?
don't remember them?
I was like,
Yeah.
how am I going to remember you? All you white people walking around here, I'm the only black one. You're gonna recognize me,
Of
but like,
course you gonna recognize me. I
no,
mean, wow, wow.
yeah.
So one thing I did want to, and thinking about all of that and how you navigated and how you overcame and 41 years in the field, what would you recommend, to others who may be the first? And yeah, unfortunately, in 2026, we are still experiencing the first, in many different genres and areas and professions, et cetera. And you're still the first, whether you might not be the first attorney, but you might be the first attorney in that area. You might be the first judge, in that area. So what would you recommend to others, I would say, that are experiencing their first and, how to navigate these sort of situations?
Well, coming up, like I started out looking at Perry Mason, and then that's what I said. I don't want to be a lawyer, and then people try to talk you out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my niece was the first black judge down there where she was. Ashley's like the second or third black judge, but she was the youngest black judge in the
Mm-hmm.
county, uh, female. Uh, Anytime that you're the first,
Mm-hmm.
you got to understand that you know, no matter what people put it on you, you've always got somebody else who's been there before you
Mm.
have. And one of the biggest things that struck me when I actually cried the night it happened was
Yeah.
when Barack Obama was elected president
Mm-hmm.
of the United States.
I did too.
I cried.
Mm-hmm.
It was a joy, but I was kind of crying because like I was sad that my dad wasn't there to see that.
I know.
You know?
Oh my gosh, so many. Never thought it would happen.
I never thought it would happen, but like, and knowing that if that can happen,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you are, where you are,
Oh yeah,
like if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish. So that's what I would
absolutely.
say to anybody else. You're like,
Absolutely.
if you're in a situation where you're the first, remember at some point somebody was there before you. They may not have gone as far high as you have.
Mm-hmm.
But you got somebody there you can look up to as an example as to how you can get to where you want to be.
That's right. That's right. I love that. I love that. And regardless, like you said, somebody walked the path before you. So in walking in that, just know you have to be self-assured that you deserve to be there. One, and that despite what others may think, again, you deserve to be there and you have what it takes. And you certainly did that. I mean, you stayed in the profession as long as you did, navigating all of the, whether they were with you or not, you were there.
Hmm.
And really, I'd like to think that you helped shape the legal field and I'll say even the judicial systems, I'll say willingness to embrace, because now you look back, even when I came along as a working for the Department of Juvenile Justice, it wasn't a lot of us. I think I was the third person that sat in the intake position. Prior to that, it was Johnny Scott and another lady named Kim. I can't remember her last name.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the third. And while it wasn't more than one at the time, but I did have, they had created a path for me. So it was, I'll say, a little bit easier for me to walk in. But I think about that sometime. But we have to know that regardless of me, because I was the only one in the 25th district serving Department of Juvenile Justice at that time. And you think about it, and it's like you really have to just know and be self-assured when you walk through those doors, regardless, that you deserve to be there just as anybody else.
I didn't realize it at the time, but when I was hired to be an assistant DA in Wake County,
Hmm.
I was the third one.
Okay.
That was in 1979.
Wow.
They had not had a black assistant DA with two other guys before me.
Wow.
Well, four. There was four. I was the fourth. I take
Hmm.
Stafford Bullock became a judge. A guy named Cherry was before. It was after him. A
Hmm.
guy named Tom Gervais, and I was the fourth
Hmm.
black assistant DA in Wake County,
Wow.
which is, and that didn't make any sense to me at all because, like, you know, think about it. We're talking 1979. This is like 14, 15 years after the Civil Rights Movement. You think about all the lawyers that came through before then. But, when you stop and look at it, there were very few lawyers who had the reputation of Julius Chambers or James
Oh
Ferguson.
yeah. Oh
You know,
yeah.
and
Oh
it,
yeah. He was our chancellor at Central when I was in college and well respected civil rights,
yeah.
attorney. Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh
see,
yeah.
those guys, like uh, when I got here, you know, I saw, I was surprised to see a black judge come through, out of Charlotte,
Hmm.
you know, and they had several black judges come through, Shirley Fulton and
Yep. Yep. The Honorable late, the Honor Judge Fulton. I had the pleasure of meeting her. She was
yeah,
phenomenal. Hmm.
it was great. And then like Clifton Johnson was the
Hmm.
black judge I saw before he went on the Court of Appeals and then to the Supreme Court. But
Hmm. Now, just listening at that, it makes me wonder, like, so how did you find just the stories inside the courtroom and even the stories outside the courtroom? Which one did you find most challenging, would you say? Navigating inside the courtroom or outside? It seemed like it was a fight either way.
well, in the courtroom, as a prosecutor, a lot of people realize, but the DA is actually one of the most powerful person in the room,
Oh, for sure.
right?
For sure.
Decide, look, what cases are going to get tried. I decide
Hmm.
what the judge gets his hands on it. I decide, I'm the one who's trying to convince this jury, and I'm the one who tells us the defendant, look, man, you need to take this plea bargain. Bad things are going to happen to you.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
but outside the courtroom, every now and then, um, this brother, my one brother, said, do you carry a gun? I said, no.
Hmm.
We need to start.
Hmm.
Like, you're making a lot of people mad, and
Hmm.
so no, but that's another story too, because I'm probably the only DA that shot the window out of the courthouse too. So
Oh, yeah, that's another story for another time.
yeah, well, things happen.
But listen, you listen. I mean, even with that, as you said, I mean, trying to protect yourself. I mean, being a prosecutor, that's a tough field, and you've been in it all these years, and like you said, people knew you and you didn't recognize them. People walk up on you, you don't know, you could be in the grocery store, you could be with your family, you could just be at the local basketball game, and people know you, but you don't know them, and somebody could have a personal vendetta against you because of you basically doing your job, so.
Yeah, that's happened a few times. I was walking to the fish place one day, and there were three brothers in there. Two of them were happy to see me. One of them wasn't. And the reason the two were happy to see me said, "Well, I was in front of you, and you gave me a break, but you didn't give me one."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when he was mad at me, he's standing there. He wasn't too happy, but he couldn't say nothing because his boys were telling him, like, "Now, yeah, he's just doing his job." That's the way I hope people look at it. I'm just doing my job.
You're
I
just
don't.
doing your job.
Yeah.
Hmm.
In fact, um, even when I was, with the exception of maybe a couple of them, one guy that cussed me the whole time I was trying to get trying. Uh, I tried to be respectful to folks. You know,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, look, when I send you to prison, good luck to you, young man. I hope you do well when you get out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because okay, you screwed up. Hope you do better when you get back.
Right, right. I mean, at least, like you said, the way in which you did it was, first of all, it wasn't your fault that they were in there. That's number one. Um, your job didn't start until they were arrested and then you came to that place where you were inside the courtroom. Like that wasn't, you weren't the cause of them being in there. So once they came in front of you, you had to do your job. So like you said, I would hope that people see it that way. Some don't, and they want to like take things personally, but I mean, you were not a part of the process of him leading up to being in the courtroom. So you were trying to effectively do your job.
I
So
used to have people would come up to me and say, "Hey, man, you remember me?" And sometimes I did. Yeah, you're such and such and such person. I put you in prison for this. They
Mm.
walk to me and they say like, "Hey, you remember me?" I say, "Nah, man, I don't." But like, tell me what you did to cause me to be for you to be in my
For me to
courtroom.
know you. Right.
Hey, you tell me what you did. Maybe it'll refresh my memory. What did you do?
Right. For me to meet your acquaintance. How do we know each other? Exactly.
That's what
Right.
they cared about.
Right.
They just sneak on the way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was captivated by again, never trying a capital murder case. I don't even primarily discuss practice criminal law, but you come through several poignant, I'll say significant cases. Some of them capital murder cases, and I'm just interested just to delve into your prosecutorial mind. What strategies, I'll say, did you use to approach these type cases?
Well, first you got to decide, am I going to shoot for the death penalty for this guy now? Does he deserve
Mm-hmm.
it? And you know, there are some really cruel people out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you kill two people at one time, I got bad. You've had a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
If you kill somebody and you've already shot somebody in the past or done something
Mm-hmm.
in the past, you've had it for a long time. You've had a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and couples of murder cases, capital cases, and I'm gonna give you a point here. I've actually written another book. You know,
Oh, you did.
well, I'm in the process of doing it because
Okay.
when I wrote Prosecutor Boy, I had so many stories to tell, especially capital murder cases,
Oh
that
yeah.
I take a lot of them out because it was too much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I put them in a file, so the guy said, "Well, we'll take them and we'll put them in another book later on, down the road, and it'll just simply be, war stories and
Mm-hmm.
other cases." But when you are thinking about, and that's the reason I mentioned that other book is because two of those cases that are in it are cases that were retrials that had been for 10 years old. Me and Dellinger had to go back and do.
Mm.
97 when we did what I call the death, no, 98, what I
Mm-hmm.
call the death jam tour. Death
Mm-hmm.
jam tour. Because that's all we did that year was try three capital murder cases, trying to put two guys back on death row, and
Mm-hmm.
a third was on death row.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the two guys back, but the other, we missed him, but that's okay. You ain't gonna get them all. It's hard to convince 12 people to
Mm-hmm.
recommend the death penalty for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Once you realize that, okay, fine, if anybody deserves it, this guy does, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, but I was trying this one guy, uh, and I walked by him, so I walked by him, and he's an old dude. He's not, I got to liking the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan used to tell me, "Hey man, don't start liking him. You won't want to kill him." I said, "No, I can still like him
Mm-hmm.
and do what I got to do." And I
Mm-hmm.
walked by him and I said to him, and I backed up and said, "Hey man, look, this is nothing personal." And I went on about my business. Well,
Mm-hmm.
after I walked by him, this guy starts crying. And the
Mm.
bailiff asked him, "Why is he crying?" He says, "Because nobody ever treated him like a man before."
Wow.
So
Wow.
the bailiff goes up and tells the judge about it. The judge calls me in and later on and says, "I'm going to tell you something, Jason." Says, like, there's nothing more personal than trying to kill a man.
Really? Really?
Well, okay, fine, but I'm just saying, I wasn't mad at him. I'm just saying, like, you done killed two people and raped two women, and now you want to, and I don't care if you are 60 years old, you need to go back where you belong and put your butt back on death row. If you
Mm,
beat your daddy to death with a
mm-hmm,
shotgun,
mm-hmm,
because you want to inherit, make sure you inherit from your mama, then you needed to go back on death row where you belong. You know,
mm-hmm,
that's in
mm-hmm.
the next book.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I know that's going to be interesting because as I was reading your book, there's two cases. I was growing up probably around the time, and I remember those. And I
The boy,
remember the feeling and the climate, and it was heavy, during those times. And I want the readers to, I mean, the listeners to go out and buy the book. So I'm not going to say which ones they are, but two are around my age group. And I remember those cases very vividly. And it was around Ridgeview and around that community. It was heavy. It was heavy during that time. A lot of funerals was going on, and as you said, the crack epidemic, and not just in Hickory or even Ridgeview. I mean, just in general across the nation. It was a pandemic basically.
yeah, it was bad.
Um, Across the nation, that every, I'll say, small town, large city, or whatever that was going through, and it was, drug wars and all type of things. And it was, I remember two pivotal cases that I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that. I remember those people. I remember the perpetrators. I remember the victim. I was like, oh my goodness. So when I came across those, I was like, ooh, it brought back memories, during that time. So but I want everybody to go out and pick up your book because
I
you
do too.
come through yeah, you come through those cases very well, thoroughly actually. So on a lighter note, so you know, I think people would be. You kind of alluded to it a little early. I didn't want to jump into it before we got into the cases and the actual practice of law, but many people would be. I'll say our listeners would be surprised that you are a bit of an artist. Not just talking about acting in the courtroom, but you actually draw. And so, and and one thing, one of the stories you shared, I will share. You sat at the table and you drew a defendant one time, which the defense attorney wasn't very happy about, but you drew the defendant, and you actually have a picture of that defendant in your book. So, on several occasions, like I said, in court trials, it was maybe a favorite pastime of yours. So where did you even
Uh,
discover that you had that
um,
talent, I guess?
when I was a kid, I actually been drawing it since I was like in the second grade. Like
Okay,
one
okay.
time, and it was, matter of fact, it was during that time I realized I needed glasses because like they told me to draw a picture of a milk truck
Mm-hmm.
and up on the wall up there, but I couldn't see what the milk truck looked like on the wall, so I drew one like the big silver kind, of, with like a trailer.
Right, 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 right.
Pet milk on the side of it. And the teacher was raising sand about, this is not what I told you to draw. And I had to get up there close and see what it was. And it's, like a milk tractor, they actually have lamps built up
Mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I drew. I would draw sort do things like draw like submarines, cartoons, and stuff like that. And I
Yeah,
quit.
you're pretty good.
But in that particular case, I was sitting second chair.
Mm-hmm.
I was bored. You know, so like while my man was sitting there picking the jury, I'm looking at this guy and said, man, I could draw him. And I did. I just sat there and scribbled his face. And when it was over with, I made copies of it and gave them to the detectives and my law partner and everybody else. And the principal didn't appreciate it. But, here's the funny thing. The main detective, he became sheriff,
Mm-hmm.
and he saw the newspaper article they did.
Mm-hmm.
He called me up and said he wanted a copy. He knew how to get a copy of my book. He got one, and he calls me. He says, "Man, I'm so glad you put that picture of who in that book because I lost my copy of it."
Oh, so you can get another copy.
I'm giving him if he wants it. Yeah, he lost his copy of that picture.
Yeah, I mean, it was a vivid. I mean, I was like, wow, Jason can really draw. Oh my
Well, I think
goodness.
what you can do before they let him out. Though he got life plus 30 years, and they paroled him anyway.
Mm.
Yeah, he killed two women, just butchered them.
Wow.
And but they paroled him for some reason. And but you see, once they parole you, you can't go in there and look at their picture anymore at the NC inmate search.
Mm-hmm.
Before they took his picture out of there, if you wouldn't have looked at his picture and looked at that thing I drew, you could
Same
tell
thing.
the same
Same
thing.
image.
That's him.
Wow. Wow. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, just the definition of it, I was like, you really, I mean, from the nose, just the intricacies,
He
I
had a
was
big
like,
nose.
you was really studying this man as you was sitting
He
there
had a big
drawing.
nose, dude. You know, it was funny. I mean, it looked a lot like him. I'm
A
telling
lot like him.
you, it
Oh,
looked a
wow.
lot like that's why everybody was, that's what the lawyer was so mad, and everybody else thought you wanted a copy of it because like it looked just like him.
Yeah, yeah. And then I thought too, another form of artistry, as you kind of we talked about this a little bit earlier about you acting in the courthouse and even in your delivery of and presenting your case, etc. But people would also be surprised that you've actually acted in plays. Like, you've been in local theater, you've played in local theaters, you've played done about 4 or 5 plays, now. So do you find that there's well, you kind of did describe it earlier. You said it's pretty much that's what you're doing. You're acting when you're in the courtroom, when you present your case and arguing your case. Um, and so it seemed like there is some commonality there.
I had a coworker who used to who actually took acting lessons to help him try to improve improve his lawyer skills. But see, I didn't do the acting thing until after I retired,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
and uh, that was just a fluke. I mean, it was something to do. I mean, I was in Crowns, right, and they were all the lady who uh, directed it came to Morning Star
Mm-hmm.
and said we would like extra smooth people to come in and audition for this play. And I said, okay, fine, just for the fun. So I'll go now audition for it, and I could sing a little bit, but I didn't realize I'd be singing that much,
Mm-hmm.
in that play.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got into it. I kind of enjoyed that one. I mean,
Okay.
it was just me, this other brother who played the piano, and but I was the only male actor with 8 other women.
Mm-hmm. That was word.
And some of them
Oh, okay. Okay, we won't know.
from church, okay?
Okay.
And it was quite an experience. But like hey, they got this little thing called the K Award, which is they took equivalent of the Tony
Mm-hmm.
Award for play.
Mm-hmm.
First time out, I got one.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that. Mm-hmm.
Got that.
Wow. I think you're a natural born actor, right? So you
It
just chose the profession of law. But the fact that you was able to go in there and then now you received an award the first time out, I mean,
oh, then we did Ain't Misbehaving the next year, and then I was in I played a little small role in To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pretty much. I've been asked to do other plays since then. In fact, somebody contacted me the other day about wanting to come down to Charlotte and do The Color Purple.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Well, I told her I'm too old. I can't remember my lines anymore. So I ain't doing that.
I
I'm,
don't know. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
doing that. I'm not doing
You
that.
don't want to, okay. You'd rather
That's too much.
continue to
That's
write
too
your
much.
book.
That's too much of a drive, man. That takes it out of you. Don't People don't realize how much time and effort it takes to put on a play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It takes
Oh
a
yeah. Yeah, I've never been in a play other than when I was a kid. So I know, and with the way my life's set up right now with everything that I got my hands in, I wouldn't have time either.
I didn't realize you. This is interesting that you've got this podcast going. I mean, how did you get into that?
How did I get into it? It's so interesting. I get that question all the time because I'm actually a pretty private person. But it was something I got into after I felt like I had gotten to a place in my life, I had practiced law, I had owned my law firm, I'd worked in corporate America, and I really discovered around probably 6 or 7 years ago, I used to think that I didn't have I'll say an artistic side, but then I discovered that I knew how to write poetry. I could always write well. I received a certificate of merit. Merit. I received a certificate of merit in advanced research and writing in law school, and I always wrote well. And but my brother was always felt like the more artistic one. Like he's an engineer, but he sings, he write poetry, he writes songs, he dances. I had rhythm,
Page
but
two.
I was I was more, I would say, the person that just kind of studied, stayed in my lane, did that type of thing. And interestingly enough, I just started having interest in it just started flowing things that I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm 52 years old now. And I was like, I've checked off pretty much every box that I've wanted to do. And I'm like, you know what? I'm in private practice now. I can do it how I want to do it, but I also have an interest. I realize that I do have this sort of artistic side, and this is just another form of Tay. People know me in my hometown as Tay, but professionally, most people know me as Kimyata. And I just found that that's just something that I wanted to do, and I said before I leave this earth, I'm going to do absolutely everything I feel like that I want to do in my life, and that's hence podcast just kind of came about.
Well, see, I didn't know you were known as Tay until you
Oh,
did.
really? To think I know everybody, well, again,
I didn't
you
know
knew me
that.
professionally, but then also growing up in the same church, yeah, people call me, at least my peers and those that knew my mom and my family, they call me Tay.
Yeah.
And it's a nickname. My middle name is Shantae. And so I actually, most people that know me from home wouldn't think that I'd spell my name Tae, but actually my Shantae is spelled Chantae, so hence Tay. But the people that know me, they know I spell it Taye, just as a nickname. And but it's funny, yeah, a lot of people don't know and they are shocked. Well, who's Tay? Who's Tay? I was like, but those are the people that know me professionally or may have known me just, as a adult child, like you were an adult in the church, you knew me by my first name, that type of thing. But no, people call me Tay. I know exactly where people know me when they call me Tay. I was like, okay, I must have knew them from Hickory or I knew them from wherever. Yeah. So, and then my close friends knew that my family called me Tay. So when I went off to college at North Carolina Central University, a lot of my close friends who I'm still close with right now, they call me Tay. So they'll call me Tay. But yeah, that's a good question you asked me. People ask me all the time, how did I even get into it? I don't know. It came to me, and I was like, you know what? I have a lot of experience, and I have friends who have experiences. And so the podcast is really just things that I'm interested in. I'm a reader. I'm an avid reader, so it naturally I just want to, this is a great book. Your book is a great book, so I'm like, you know what? And I know Jason, personally. And I just wanted to, share with the world, things that I'm interested in, hence the podcast.
Well, good. I'm glad you're interested in my book. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're about almost actually about to draw to a close. So you kind of said to earlier, I just want to know what advice would you give young aspiring lawyers, even those that are considering a criminal justice field? How should they prepare? Just, real quick.
Make sure that you got your mind set on it. Because
Okay.
when I was in first year of law school, I noticed a lot of guys just dropped to the side because they really went, their heart wasn't in it.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Two, don't be surprised. See, a lot of people used to think, if you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to make a bunch of money real quick. No, you're not. You know, you just it takes time.
Takes time. Yeah.
And it takes time and it takes
Mm-hmm.
effort, and you got to have your heart into it. And then you got to realize that regardless of where you are in life, America still has a lot of racism in it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to deal with that because it's there and it's
Mm-hmm.
reality, and it's gotten worse than who's been in office. But
Right.
uh, that's
Right. So just knowing that that's really what you want to do, that's number one. Number two, know that you're not going to make a whole bunch of money up front, especially in criminal law or, private practice, et cetera, which is so true. Um, and really just being prepared. I would even say just as a lawyer of not as many years as you, but just knowing that you have to have patience with yourself and really understand that you have to know what you're getting into it for. People ask me, why did you become a lawyer? One, I didn't like bullies. I
yeah.
didn't like
Okay.
bullies. So, and I still don't like a bully to this day. I can't stand one, can't stand a bully to this day. And I, have always been somebody who spoke up and spoke out for people. Um, Many situations, those that were, not necessarily captured on film, but privately really advocating for people. And it was just, I think, a natural thing because I can't stand for somebody to take advantage of people. And that's why, and even I knew I wanted to be a lawyer at 9 years old. And as you had mentioned, Perry Mason, I remember that was way, way, many years ago. But then Matlock was a popular show for me. And then secondly, the first black female representation on camera was Claire Huxtable. They didn't show her a lot from the Cosby Show. They didn't show her a lot in court, but it was like I saw myself, right? I saw myself. I felt like that's something I could be. And I just think that in the practice of law, you just have to know that, as you said, what it is that you want to do and how you want to present and how effective you want to be, in it.
Yeah, I want to say this too. When I told you meeting about meeting Cliff Johnson, the first black,
Mm-hmm.
and he first recess, he takes me back to the back, and he realizes I'm the first black lawyer in the area. He said, "I'm gonna tell you, son, give you some good advice, son. Whatever you do, play by the rules.
Mm,
Not that anything, just play by the rules. Just
mm.
don't step outside of it, you know, and you know that went a long ways towards helping me, make sure that. And see, I was in private practice when he told me that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Wow. Play
the
by the
thing that
rules.
he's doing is like, I've had a couple of friends I know who got disbarred because he dipped into somebody's trust account,
Oh, for sure. For
and
sure. It's a
play by
lot.
the
Oh
rules.
yeah. Oh yeah. I know what you mean. Play by the rules. Do what you're supposed to do. Absolutely. You have to make sure those things, your funds aren't commingling. It's a whole bunch of stuff that you definitely have to pay attention to for sure. So again, as I said, we're drawn to a close. What would you say? What would you say you wanted to change, if anything? What would you do differently after 41 years of practice?
Actually, I'm pretty satisfied with what where I
Okay.
am and what I did. I mean, because like you know, people say you were a trailblazer and all that kind of stuff. No, I just had fun. At some
I
point,
like how you describe that. You have fun.
I had fun. I mean, like I'm gonna live my life the way I want to. I mean, like um, I was talking to my editor this morning, and he was saying, we got to get this book out there for everybody to see. I said, that's fine, man. But like at the same time, like if they buy it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. Because I still
Mhm.
had, that was the
Just
whole idea.
having fun.
I had fun because like, life's too short to
It
go
is.
miserable, you know?
Totally, totally agree. Totally agree. So I would say then as you just said, because I was going to ask, what are you most proud of? What do you want? What do you want your legacy to be?
Ugh.
Heavy
When
question.
my father passed, his best friend walked up to the church and he said, all I can say about Wade Parker is he was a fine Christian gentleman.
Mm,
I just want people to remember me as a fair man and somebody who tried to give everybody, proper
mm,
respect, but at the same time, who, if you cross my path and you're wrong, you can expect, me to do something to you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. That's respect. That's respect. The fact that you are a fair man, and to be remembered in a manner that your dad was remembered, but to be respected. And I always say one of the questions that always comes to mind sometimes, especially when you find yourself in terse and tough situations, and even in our profession, what have you, is it better to be liked or respected? In my mind, I'd rather be respected than to be liked.
Yeah. But like, I used to, Bill Johnson, the guy that I replaced who died, he said, like, he went to me one day, he said, like, understand this, like, if you do your job right, you're going to be the most hated person in the courtroom. All right. And so one day I walked back to the office, hey man, it's like, I'm doing my job right because everybody in that courtroom stopping me.
Hmm.
and, and the judge was mad, the audience was mad, the prosecutor, the defense attorneys were mad. And you know what? And I said, okay, I must be doing my job right because everybody's mad at me. Nobody, in fact, I used to go to lunch with a guy in Statesville who was the most popular brother in town. Everybody loved my friend Freddie.
Mm.
I had to go to lunch with him after we finally when I retired. I said, "No, you understand? Like, I went to lunch because I like you, but I also went to lunch because you were my protection, buddy. Because like I'm the most hated man in the states. You're the most
Oh my,
liked man in the states."
he
That's
was
a,
like, if everybody like you, I can be with you. I'm safe.
yeah, you because you keep me safe.
Oh my
He didn't like
goodness.
that. That's
Oh
okay.
my goodness. So last two questions, I promise. So what do you want readers to take away from this book?
I want them to take away that like, hey, that um, when I started out, I'm just going to tell stories, about the cases and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This thing of everybody trying to erase Black history popped up.
Mm.
Right? So I decided, okay, I'm going to write this book so that people understand that, hey, man,
Mhm.
you can't erase Black history because I am Black history. And this is what I had to go
Absolutely.
through. Okay. And like, y'all
Absolutely.
need to understand that, like if you forget your past, if you pretend it didn't happen, you know, you're going to make the same mistakes over again. They're going to put you right back
Absolutely.
where you were before. So that's
Absolutely.
why I want people to understand that, hey, life is not a bed of roses. What my father went through, my mother went through, I didn't have to go through. But at the same time, and my daughter, she didn't have to go through what I went through. In fact,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
when Ashley was like 7, 8 years old, when I told her black kids, white kids didn't always go to school together, she got mad at me.
Mm.
You know, but we didn't. And so, like, people need to understand that, no matter how much people try to erase history, I want them to read that book and say, okay, that's the way it was.
It's exactly the way it was. Absolutely. And you can't erase history. There's no way. And I think it's important as, people of color, and Caucasian or Caucasian brothers and sisters, everybody has a responsibility to preserve history, I think, in the way that needs to be taught because you can't erase history. History basically is the foundation of how we got to where we are today. So you can try your best, and even if they want to take the books out of the school, I mean, we need to educate our own kids. So I like the fact that Prosecutor Boy is so raw and so well written. It is so well written, and it tells a story of the time and the progression and the maturation process of you from a young boy to a grown man, and a father, a prosecutor. Your experience, it vividly describes, and I'm telling you, listeners, describes life as it was. And Jason he don't cut no corners. I mean, you will be like this on some of them. You like, oh my gosh, I never even thought,
Yeah,
because I know Jason is Mr. Parker, right? Deacon Parker, So for me, I'm like, oh Lord, but I was like, you know what? People grow up, right? They have experiences. So, but I respect it. I respect this book so much. I respect it. Listeners, go out and get this book because there are so many stories. One is going to feel so relatable to you. Um, Stories that you've heard from your parents, stories you've heard from your grandparents. You are going to see yourself as Jason. Really, you're going to experience many of the things that, and you're going to recall in your own mind some of the things that you've experienced, and you're going to liken them to what you read in this book. There's a history lesson in this book. There is life lessons in this book. There are professional lessons in these books, and skill sets and strategies and mindset. I mean, it's a very, very well written book. It's a page turner. I couldn't put the book down, actually. When I started reading, I sat down. I mean, there's times I was up to 2 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to read the next chapter. And that's with everything I got to do in my life, you know. I wanted to finish the book. The book was a page turner. It's very interesting. It's riveting, actually. And I want you to go out and get it. One, because, and I want you to get it so that you can share it with your families. I want you to get it that so you can share it with your young boys, and in particular black boys as well, and not even just black boys, every young man and young woman, because there are, I think we need to know, right? I think we need to know, like, the things that happened back in the day to understand, the plight of African American and people who are underprivileged or disenfranchised, etc. I mean, he goes into detail about all of that, even in the cases, having compassion for some of even the people he tried, um, in capital murder cases. I mean, he there's compassion there, but there's also the contrast of I got to do the right thing to protect society. That is what I gathered from that book. It is a great read. You guys need to go out and get it. Go out and buy this book. Jason, where can they purchase this book?
Well, I didn't realize it, but it's actually on Amazon. You know,
Okay.
one. Um, Red Hawk Publications is here in Hickory is my publisher, and
Okay.
like website. And I actually have my website of my own. It's called prosecutorboy.com.
Okay.
You go to it, Google it, and punch the little Red Hawk Publication book. It's $25, and like you said, I hope that everybody enjoys reading it. But I've yet to have somebody tell me something negative about it. So, like, you know,
Book is
I'm
great. Book is great. And listeners, again, I'm going to put it up here for everybody to take a look at it. This is what you're going to see on Amazon and on Jason's website, prosecutorboy.com. I just want you guys, again, I know I went on and on about it. I mean, the book is phenomenal. It is a great read. Go out and get it. Get educated. Understand, his life. Understand, and this isn't just his life. Again, you're gonna understand that you've had some of the same experiences that he has had growing up, but he put it all in book form. I mean, you're gonna, like I said, a history lesson, life lessons, professional lessons, all in this book, Prosecutor Boy. Go out and get it. Jason, I am really, really, again, this has been a pleasure and an honor to meet with you here today and just, talk with you, pick your brain about a lot of things that you experienced. And again, I was truly impacted by this book and just your work. I commend you for everything that you've done. Thank you for being a trailblazer in Catawba and Alexander counties and around the state in general, just being the first to do anything. So I commend you, I appreciate you and thank you for paving the way for young African American, lawyers like myself. We owe a debt of gratitude to you and the work that you've done. So thank you again for being here with me today.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Listeners, go out and get Prosecutor Boy. Go out and get it. Okay. Run and get it today. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. Until next time, goodbye.